Hello, and welcome to the Introduction to Investment Management. My name is Professor Al Kaminski, and I am pleased to be guiding you through this next module. Allow me the opportunity now to introduce 5 different elements of this class for you that will help you get prepared for maximum success in our investment management course. So first, let me share a couple of things about myself that may help us get to know each other a little bit better. So let's take a peek. First of all, I am a professor of finance at North Park University in Chicago. I've been here for almost 20 years now after having been a corporate finance professional and consultant for many years prior, but now I've had the opportunity to partner with Fontys as well as other European institutions for the last several years, teaching courses just like this. I would much prefer to be with you in person at this time, but given the current times, we will do our best to be creative and deliver a high impact and quality course in a distance format. In order to be able to stay together, I encourage you to add me on LinkedIn and let's focus on building relationships between each other as professor, mentor, and guide, and you students that will be more valuable to you than just during this short-term learning experience. I have had the opportunity to get to know Fontys and Eindhoven a bit and was even fortunate enough to be able to be on site and tour the Glow Festival this past winter. So there's a little bit about who I am. Now let's talk a little bit about the course and what you need to do to be successful. So what I would like to do is start off by showing you how we will work. And I think most of you have had a reasonable opportunity to play with our Teams site. But within our Teams site, in addition to the posts, I will be continuously adding a certain number of files in here. I know that most of you have been inside of this file, so let's go ahead and take a look at it together just so that we can focus on a couple of the key topics that I want to introduce us to for the benefit of this course. So if we look in the module overview and we think about what is really the goal of what we're trying to do here together. This course is on investment management, so I'd like us to think about it in terms of a process. How do investment managers go about understanding, constructing, implementing, measuring, and adapting the regular needs of a portfolio's composition to best match the client's goals? Second thing that we're going to do is we're really going to focus on investment manager from 3 different perspectives. The first perspective will be the idea of an investor, a high net worth individual with excess capital who is interested in participating in some type of high yield investment. In the middle, we'll have an investment manager. The investment manager would oversee components of their entire portfolio that include stocks, bonds, cash, mutual funds, and then what we call alternatives, things that include everything from commodities or, in our case, investments in real assets like commercial real estate. And then the last thing is we'll look at it from the third perspective, which would be an investment manager who deals specifically in commercial property management investment opportunities. While we're looking at that, what we really want to be able to do is think specifically, although you're far away, what does it mean to participate in the Chicago marketplace? What makes Chicago unique as it relates to commercial property investment? We'll work on your workability skills in terms of critical thinking, analysis, and decision making, and in particular, the development of stories using technology tools, meaning can you articulate a great story about how you would go about convincing an investor to make a significant investment in a commercial property located in the Chicago marketplace? So that's what we're trying to do. And because we are remote, there will be many components of this class that will be specific to an online learning format. So if we go back to our files area, and in here, if we take a peek together on this particular Netiquette guide, I just want you to think about the ways that we should interact with each other when we are online. So here's the first thing that I want to suggest to you. As it relates to our Netiquette, the first thing is Teams, Microsoft Teams, and the team I've built will be our primary point of collaboration. I understand that you use quite a bit WhatsApp and that there are conversations taking place there. That is sufficient for you to communicate with each other, but if you wish to communicate with me and or engage with this course material, then I am going to suggest and require you all go through Teams as your primary point of collaboration. So for example, instead of asking questions as it relates to timing in your WhatsApp, please come here instead and type it into the general chat area. Back to our suggestions for success in Netiquette. Then the next thing that I would like you to really think about is how are we going to be working together online? First thing I'd like you to do is make sure all your technology works in advance. I have a daughter who is a college student. She struggles with this sometimes as well, but in order to be fully functional, I ask that you have camera, mic, and speakers. When you participate, when you come in, I would ask that you're muted at all points in time until you're ready to speak, in which case you should mute yourself, take yourself off of mute, and then ask your question, and then put yourself back onto mute when you're done. I would also like cameras on at all times. It makes it far more interactive. It's helpful to see each other's body language and expressions. I understand it's not always possible. If you're having an issue with your camera, or if you're in a place that doesn't have stable Wi-Fi connections, it's acceptable to leave it off if necessary. Clearly, it's acceptable to leave it off if you need to get up and walk around and take a break as well. But otherwise, please keep your cameras on at all points in time. Then, when it comes to the chat box, during the course of our sessions, I highly encourage using the chat box to ask questions. You can either indicate something as simply as I have a question, or you could actually type up your question. But please reserve the chat box for questions for myself or the speakers, as opposed to chats about something that is not directly related to what we are doing at the time. So that's our Netiquette in terms of the expectations that I have for you. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about our agenda. So coming back to this main file, I noticed that many of you have been inside of this already, so this shouldn't be anything in particular that is concerning or confusing, but you'll notice once I get back to it, come on, column AE, that's not where we want you to be at all. Okay, getting myself back to square. I'm doing this right now, recording your investment management intro, and I will be sending out something to you in a little while that will make sure that you watch it in advance. Then tomorrow, as you saw, we will have our first live session, and it will be approximately 2 hours. I noticed in the WhatsApp chat that many of you are concerned about timing. In this spreadsheet, this is what the internet suggested to me, that your time zone is GMT +2, whereas I am GMT -5, meaning we are 7 hours apart from one another. So at 3 o'clock your time on Monday, tomorrow, and at 8 o'clock my time, AM, Monday, tomorrow, we will have our first session. I will send out for this first session, just as I have for these down below, an invite so that you will hopefully have no further confusion relative to timing. Before Tuesday then, I'm expecting everyone to do 2 things. A, to watch these interviews. FYI, right now I've seen that they've only been viewed 10 times. And since there are 50 some people in this class, it suggests to me that many of you have some watching to do. Additionally, I have asked and have posted in our Teams section that each of your classes or each of your teams should type in some questions. And some of you have, so thank you Team 3 for starting. Thank you Team 7 for starting. So I want to make sure that we have some pre-prepared questions for our speaker. Don't worry about the property. I will likely indicate that for you in the next few days. That will be the property to which you are assigned. So again, as we're looking at our module, please make sure before these interviews that you type in some prepared questions. Then on Wednesday of this week, we will have a combined session where we will first be on site and take a tour of a real estate property that is commercial, that will be guided by the investment advisor who manages that property. And after that, we'll go ahead and sit down and ask some questions and answers. I will likely add a third column to your team's spreadsheet. As a matter of fact, we can go ahead and do that right now. That says, well, you know what? You won't have the opportunity to meet Matt ahead of time. So let's just be active in the chat. And I won't need to add another column for Matt Bauman questions. But my point is, when we get to this section here, I'm fully expecting you all again to be prepared to ask questions. Thursday is your research time. And then on Friday, we will have our last live online session for week 1, whereby week 1 will be brought to a conclusion first by me reviewing the financial statements with you. That will be a file that I will put up later that will give us guidance on how to do the financial analysis of an investment, and it will be a key and critical input to your project in terms of storytelling. Following into week 2, I have offered the opportunity, and it is optional but not required, although highly suggested, that you schedule times during your 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. time frame to go ahead and set an appointment with me so that I can go ahead and look at the work that you have to date, answer any questions, and make suggestions. So that in the following week, we will go ahead and schedule each team's presentation so we can see what your final project looks like. So that's our layout for the week. So let's take a look then quickly at the project. I'll ask you to read this in detail, but what I think is the most important thing is the suggested agenda down here. Let me give you the story of your team project. You will have seen commercial property investment in the Chicago market from the viewpoint of an investor, an investment advisor, and a commercial property real estate investment advisor. You are going to then take the orientation that you have an investor, and that investor is looking to make a significant investment into a commercial property. So the first thing you need to tell this investor is, why would you be interested in investing in commercial property in Chicago? What are the facets of the environment that will be attractive to the investor? And then the majority of your work will be in and around detailed commercial property investment opportunity analysis. First thing you're going to want to do is describe the physical property, its layout, its features, its opportunities, its needs. But then you want to go ahead and really focus your attention on saying, here is the way that this property will yield returns via its cash flows. Here's the way that we will fund the deal. Here are the revenues that's associated with it. When we pair it with expenses, then we can demonstrate to the investor how, for a given investment amount, that they can be projected to earn their returns. You will then have to create a 15 to 20 minute investor pitch, which will be delivered online, preferably via our teams, but I'm open to others if necessary. I will expect you to dress up to the extent practicable in front of an investor. You will be required to have a significant visual like a PowerPoint, and each team member should be presenting in English. We will go over these things in greater detail during our time together on Monday. So let me finish then with our last set of guidance so that you get to know a little bit more about how I would like this experience to unfold for us all. First thing is, number one, we only have a few weeks together and we don't have the opportunity to shake hands, to look each other's in an eye and get to know each other face to face in a traditional in-person format. So you're going to need to find ways to be memorable. That could be as simple as making sure your camera is on all the time and waving when you understand something. It could be as significant as creating a visually stimulating PowerPoint that is so excellent that I feel the need to show it to classes going forward. And so the memory of your excellent work continues to live on beyond just these 3 weeks. Number two, and on a way to reinforce number one, is to be participative, to make sure that you are active in the chat with questions, that you are active online in terms of keeping your camera on and being on time, number three, and doing all of the things that will make your experience maximized because you have brought and executed to the best of your ability the greatest amount of participation. But I also encourage you to be creative. This isn't intended to be a high stress exam type outcome, but rather an opportunity for you to really close your eyes and say, I've never been to Chicago. I don't know anything about Chicago. Let's say that I have a friend here in the Netherlands who's really interested in investing. How would I describe Chicago to them? And how would I help them understand how they could create financial returns by investing in Chicago's real property? There is no right answer to that. I won't be able to check all the facts. So feel free to take some license and to be creative, because it's about storytelling, and it's the story that will be memorable. The verbals that you give, the visuals that you show. Have fun with those. Number five, have fun when we're chatting, have fun when you're presenting. But to me, education has to be fun. Otherwise, there's no incentive for any of us to try our best. You'll find I'm fairly demanding and inflexible when it comes to things such as grammar and due dates, but you'll also find I have a pretty good sense of humor. And I too, like you, am quarantined right now and not really able to live my life as normal. So anything that we can do in this unique time to help each other, A, learn something, and B, have a fun and memorable experience. That's the real responsibility that we all carry as members of this learning group. Thank you for listening to my introductory message. I look forward to getting to know all of you soon.